Daniel was 23 when he started believing that life would somehow arrange itself without him trying too hard. He wasn't loud about it, and he didn't think of it as a decision. It just became his way of living. Every morning he woke up late, not because he was exhausted, but because there was nothing pushing him to get up. His phone was always the first thing in his hand, scrolling through videos, messages, anything that could pass time. Hours would go by without him realizing. His mother would sometimes ask him if he had plans for the day, and he would always respond with later, like time was something he had too much of. Daniel had ideas, real ones. He talked about learning skills, starting something of his own, making money, changing his life. When he spoke, he sounded convincing, even confident, like everything was already in motion. But the truth was, nothing ever started. He would watch a few minutes of a tutorial and get distracted. He would write plans down and forget them. He would promise himself every night that the next day would be different. But when morning came, it was always the same routine again. One afternoon, his friend Michael visited him and told him he had started working at a small printing shop. It wasn't a big job, but Michael said he was learning and gaining experience. Daniel laughed it off and said he didn't want to stress himself with something small, that he was waiting for something better. Michael didn't argue. He just told him not to wait too long, but Daniel brushed it aside because in his mind, he still had time. Weeks passed, and nothing changed in Daniel's life. The same pattern repeated every day, and the small discomfort he sometimes felt, that quiet feeling that something wasn't right, was always ignored. After a few months, Michael came back, and this time he was different. He had learned new things. He was making some money. He spoke with more confidence and direction. Daniel smiled and congratulated him. But later that night, he couldn't sleep properly. Something about that moment stayed in his mind, not strong enough to change him, but enough to make him uneasy. Still, he didn't act. Time kept moving. 6 months turned into a year, and Daniel was now 24, with nothing to show for it. Around him, people were changing, growing, moving forward. But he remained in the same place, still planning, still talking, still waiting. One day, his mother sat him down and asked him directly what his plan was, and for the first time, he didn't have a clear answer. He said he was working on something, but when she asked what exactly, he paused and said he would figure it out. She didn't argue. She just looked at him and walked away, and that silence stayed with him longer than any words could have. Not long after that, reality started pressing harder. Money became tight, small needs became difficult, and Daniel could feel the pressure now in a way he couldn't ignore. He decided to try. He woke up early one morning, sat down with his laptop, ready to begin. But when he opened it, he just stared at the screen. Nothing came. No energy, no direction, no discipline. Everything he had postponed had now become difficult. He tried again the next day and the next, but it felt like he was starting from zero while everyone else had already moved ahead. One evening, he ran into Michael again, but this time Michael was driving and seemed busy, speaking quickly about work and opportunities. They talked briefly, and then Michael left, and Daniel stood there for a moment watching him go before slowly walking back home. That night, he didn't make excuses. He didn't comfort himself with, "There's still time." He just saw things clearly for what they were. He had not moved forward, not because he couldn't, but because he didn't. That realization stayed with him, quiet but heavy. Days passed, and Daniel finally started working on himself, slowly learning, slowly trying. But now it was harder than it would have been before, because time had already passed, and the gap between him and others was real. Still, he continued, step by step, struggling but moving. Years later, Daniel built something for himself, not as big as he once imagined, and not as quickly as he once hoped. But it was something real. One day, he sat alone, thinking about everything, and understood that if he had started earlier, if he had taken action when it was easy, his life would have been different. But he didn't. And that was the truth he had to live with. Daniel didn't fail at first because life was against him. He failed because he believed that things would work out, even if he didn't work. And by the time he understood that truth, he had already paid for it with time.